A very good afternoon from Sepang in Malaysia. It's round 4 of the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. Thank you so much for joining us for another round of what's set to be a very, very exciting season in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. It's 2017. The championship at the top is separated by just 2 points after the last round in Suzuka. Haruki Noguchi leads the way on 87 points, and his nearest rival, Yuki Kuni, as we said, is just 2 points behind on 85. However, that has all turned on its head here this weekend in Sepang because it's been very hot, very humid, and we've seen a new man on pole position for this weekend. Fresh off of his brilliant performance in the Saxon Ring in the Red Bull Rookies, where he took a double victory, Canon Chu has taken pole position here in Sepang in Malaysia. You can see him there in the far right of your screen on the number 3. He heads the first row of the grid. Alongside him in the middle of the second row on the number 12, you can see him there, Raisu Yamanaka. And on the outside of the first row, it is Canon Chu's twin brother, Dennis Chu. They're exactly the same age, of course, being twins, but you wouldn't think they were, given the size difference between the two riders. But nonetheless, they are very, very quick. As you can see, the 30-second board being displayed, that's the front row of the grid. Let's run you through it very quickly as we get ready to get the formation lap underway. It's Haruki Noguchi, Jerry Salim and Azroy Anwar on the second row of the grid. Row 3 is Koji Hirama, Lucky Hendry Sia and Krichipon Kaiwasoni. Row 4 in 10th position is headed by Irfin Furman Sia, Takuto Suzuki and Reed Beatty on 12th position on the grid. 13th place on row 5 is Hazik Hamdin. Then it's Genki Nakajima, Cyril Saihimi. And then row 6 is Koki Suzuki, Kai Sato and Koko Tadichi. And then on the 7th and final row of the grid, in 19th place, is Bina Arfin as the riders head off on their formation lap. Now, qualifying was held earlier on this morning, an ambient air temperature of 28.8 degrees, a track temperature of 32.4 degrees. Very, very humid this morning, 75% with dry conditions, of course. Now, however, that has all changed for the race this afternoon. 35.4 degrees Celsius is the air temperature, but the track temperature is the most interesting thing. That has shot right up to 50.7 degrees Celsius with a 48% humidity. So track temperatures are very different from what we had earlier on this morning. That's going to make tyre longevity over this 13-lap race very interesting indeed. So let's keep an eye out, see how these riders go, and let's see how long they're able to last in the race before the tyres drop off, if indeed they do so. So as you can see, the riders now just on their formation lap. They've just headed through the right-hander of turn 4, down the kink into turns 5 and then the right-hander of turn number 6. One of my favourite parts of the lap, this one, as we go through the double apex right-handers of turns 7 and 8 in just a couple of moments' time. If you're new to the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, well, first of all, welcome. It's great to have your company. Thank you so much for joining us for another round of the championship. You may notice that all of the motorcycles look exactly the same, and that's really, well, because they are. They are exactly the same motorcycles that these riders race, identical in every single way, right down to the livery on the machines. Doesn't make it easy for the commentators to pick it out, but nonetheless it makes the racing very exciting and very close indeed. So the riders just getting the crucial heat and temperature into their tyres and brakes, which sounds somewhat silly really, given the fact that it's so warm here this weekend in Malaysia. Absolutely baking it is outside. As we said, that ambient air temperature 35.4 degrees Celsius going into this first race. But it is the 13-year-old from Alana in Turkey, who lines up on pole position of Canon Chu. As we said, fresh off the back of that double win in the Saxon Ring, of course, so keep an eye out for him in the stages of this race. Keep an eye out, though, for his twin brother as well, Dennis Chu. He lines up on the outside of the first row. Here's an interesting point on the lap. This back straight going into turn number 15. They go accelerating down here, then hard on the brakes into the very, very tricky left-handed hairpin. It's a crucial overtaking opportunity, so let's keep an eye out for more of that in the race. But the riders now coming out of the final corner and heading to the grid. So that front row again, just to remind you, Canon Chu, Raisu Yamanaka and Dennis Chu as they make their way to their grid positions. So 19 riders on the grid for this one, set to be very exciting. If it's anything compared to what we had in Suzuka last time, it's going to be a thrilling race, and an average lap time of around about 2 minutes 15, 2 minutes 16 in qualifying trim is what we had earlier on this morning. So we should expect the race to take around about half an hour or so, there and thereabouts, with 13 laps. So there we go. Canon Chu slots himself into pole position on the outside of, or the inside rather, of the first row. Alongside him is Raisu Yamanaka, and then, as we mentioned, his twin brother Dennis Onchu. 13 years of age, the two Onchu brothers occupying the inside and the outside of the front row as we wait for that green flag to be waved at the back now. And the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup is just moments away from getting underway here at the Sepang International Circuit. The red lights are on, they go off, and we go racing here in Malaysia. Great start from the front row from Raisu Yamanaka. Canon Chu also got away well, but it's pint-sized man Dennis Onchu, his twin brother, who takes the lead as we head down towards the first corner. Keep an eye out as well for Haruki Noguchi, the championship leader, making some inroads. He's already getting himself up into 4th position as Dennis Onchu runs it wide at the first corner, handing the lead back to his twin brother Can. So can do it, and he leads the way in the opening stages of the race as we come plummeting through turn number 3. And now it's all important for Canon Chu to try and make a break out in front of this race. It's so difficult to do so on these motorcycles. They're identical, as we said on the warm-up lap, in every conceivable way. Second place at the moment being held onto by Jerry Salim, who's made an absolute barnstormer of a start from the second row of the grid. He started in P5 and is now up into second place. So great start there from Jerry Salim, with Dennis Onchu slotting himself into 3rd position off the opener. 13 laps now, just under 12 and a half to go on the opener here at the Sepang International Circuit, and Dennis Onchu looks to make it a Turkish 1-2 as we go in towards turn number 7. Up the inside of Jerry Salim, gets the move done and dusted, and now he sets after his twin brother to try and get the lead away. This could be a fantastic scrap between the two riders throughout the course of this race, but let's keep an eye out because the likes of Haruki Noguchi, Raisu Yamanaka, and of course the man directly behind Dennis Onchu, Jerry Salim, will be looking to try and change that throughout the course of this race. Through the right-hander we go into the final sector of the lap. It's a very, very difficult part of the lap, this one, especially this right-hander here of turn number 11. Very hard on the front end. It's quite off camber as well as we head down in towards the right and then the left. Keep an eye out for this one as well. We could see some good overtaking opportunities as we come into towards turn number 14. Dennis Onchu just defending there from Jerry Salim. Got some good company in the form of behind as well, but already the riders coming along the back straight and looking like they're going to need binoculars to be able to see Dennis Onchu out in front. He is leading the way comfortably, as you can see, by a good few bike margins. Now second place is under threat for Dennis Onchu as Jerry Salim pops out from under the bubble. Up the inside he goes, and Haruki Noguchi fancies a bit of the action as well. He goes up into 3rd place, so now it's Jerry Salim in 2nd, Haruki Noguchi, the championship leader, in 3rd position. Over the timing line we go. The first lap out of 13 completed, and it is Can Onchu, the Turkish rider, who leads the way. Raisu Yamanaka in 2nd place, and that is an incident as well that we can see on the back straight involving Reed Beattie and what looks to be the number 19 as well. That's a bit of a disaster there for Sol Saihimi. Unfortunately, big shame for those riders. Hopefully they're all okay, but the bike stricken in the middle of the track, of course, means that the yellow flags are out, so we should expect that section to be slowed significantly. Hopefully they can clear it before these riders come round, otherwise we'll have the red flag being thrown. But leading the way is Canon Chu, Raisu Yamanaka, and there is Sorel Saihimi, the other rider involved in that incident, as Reed Beattie unfortunately walks away. Both riders unharmed, but nonetheless a big shame to their charge in the championship. Meanwhile, 2nd place really coming into its own now as well as Dennis Onchu sits in P2 at the moment. In fact, that might actually be Raisu Yamanaka. No, I apologise. Yamanaka in 5th position at the moment. So it is an Onchu 1-2 as we can see it. So it's Can from Dennis at the moment. Then in 3rd place at the moment. All the riders dueling for position, a 4-way scrap going on for 3rd position. Keep an eye out for this because this could be a very interesting development in the race. At the moment it's Azroy Anwar who's in 3rd place, but the riders behind, Raisu Yamanaka, Haruki Noguchi and Jerry Salim, all in there looking to try and make that order change around quite significantly. Through the right-hander we go in towards turn number 11 again. As we said, a very difficult part of the lap list. Of course, it's very hot here today, as we mentioned as well. The track temperatures have been absolutely soaring since we had qualifying earlier on this morning. And what's going to be interesting to see is how the riders can hold on to their tyre life and see whether they can make the longevity work. So through the right-hander we go, onto the back straight. This is where we see the opportunities taking place for the overtakes. Here we go then with Azroy Anwar. He's in third place at the moment, but right behind him is the number 12 of Raisu Yamanaka, and just behind Yamanaka, of course, is Noguchi, the championship leader. He is going to be looking to do everything he can to try and make inroads on the riders in front of him in order to be able to get himself a bigger advantage in the championship going into race number 2. So getting ready to go over the timing line we are once again. Still Dennis Onchu there in second place, looking like he's made a little bit of a breakaway compared to these riders. Just a couple of bike lengths, bit of daylight between himself and Anwar, and also the number 9 of Noguchi as well, as that looks to change as we go into the first corner. Now it's Yamanaka in third place. Keep an eye out though for all the riders going through very nicely indeed. Everybody making it very cleanly through down the hill into the right hand. A notable absence from the timing screens you will see is Yuki Kuni. He's not racing here this weekend in Malaysia, so the championship leader, of course, Haruki Noguchi, will be able to make an advantage over Yuki Kuni. But it'll be interesting to see how the riders all get on. So through the right-hander we go. You can see the fastest lap there being set by the race leader, Kanonchu, a 2:17.575. That is around about a second or so slower than we had in qualifying earlier on this morning. So you can see how the hotter temperatures really are affecting these riders' lap times. Not that lap times count for too much during the race, unless, of course, you're trying to make a breakaway out in front. But regardless, somewhat slower than what we had earlier on in qualifying. But now the battle for third place really beginning to intensify as well, as Raisu Yamanaka comes under pressure from Azroy Anwar, the number 20, of course, off the back of some very, very positive results that we had in Suzuka last time out for the number 20, Azroy Anwar. Of course, finished second, of course, in race 1 in Suzuka. Second is his best result, actually, as well, because he finished second in round 1 in Chang. Unfortunately, had that DNF in race 2 when he was caught up in an incident with Raisu Yamanaka out of the final chicane. Big incident we had there. If you haven't seen it, I do implore you to go back and watch it, because it was so exciting. Went right down to the last lap with 3 riders involved in a nasty incident at the final corner. It really did change the complexion of the championship. But Azroy Anwar looking to try and make amends after what was a disappointing end to Suzuka, but nonetheless his best result, or his equal best result of the season in race 1, made it a weekend to remember for him. Meanwhile, hard on the brakes goes Raisu Yamanaka under the bubble. He's trying to find his way through against Dennis Onchu. Onchu runs it wide through the final corner of turn 15, and like candy from a baby, Raisu Yamanaka gets himself up into second position. So now into P2 for Yamanaka, but Onchu looking to try and fight back. Yamanaka goes defensive down the start-finish straight, but heading in towards that very difficult first corner, we go 3 wide as Azroy Anwar looks to take 2 positions in the space of a start-finish straight, which he does so. So Azroy Anwar now up into second place. Beautiful overtaking there from the number 20. The hometown hero, of course, his home Grand Prix, Azroy Anwar, here in Sepang. One of 2 visits that we've got this season. We've got this one, and then we've got another one later on in the championship, so keep an eye out for that. It's going to be very exciting indeed. Now Kanonchu with another fastest lap, just a few hundredths quicker than we had last time around. 10 laps now remaining here in Sepang. The championship really getting very, very exciting indeed. Haruki Noguchi, of course, as we mentioned, on the number 9, leading the way. He's a bit shuffled back in this pack at the moment, not perhaps making the inroads as we would begin to expect, right at the tail end of this group. So he's down in 5th position so far. You can just see him right there, right behind Jerry Salim. Meanwhile, Azroy Anwar pops out into turn 7, and now he is ahead of Raisu Yamanaka. Through the right-hander we go. Nicely done there from Yamanaka. Beautiful bit of overtaking. Now still Dennis Onchu in second place, but that's changing as well as Anwar pops out once again. He's hard on the brakes into the hairpin. And into second position he goes. Lovely bit of overtaking there from the Malaysian rider. If he can't take a victory because Kanonchu is leading the way quite significantly, it would be a brilliant result for him to take a podium in his home race, and I'm sure the crowd here would be absolutely delighted as well. We go down into the downhill left-handers of turn 12 and then into the right-hander of turn 13. There you can see the battle for second place with the graphic on screen. 5 riders involved in that scrap at the moment. Will be very interesting to see how this pans out later on in the race. Some brilliant racing going on up and down the field as well. And of course, all these riders are battling, so we won't see any fastest laps perhaps being set at the moment. Meanwhile, Denison Chu pulls out from the slipstream, as does Raisu Yamanaka. Yamanaka goes now ahead of Annuar, but here comes On Chu. He's looking to take 2 positions in the space of a corner. Can't quite do it, but Annuar moves down 2 positions. He goes from 2nd into 4th place. There's a little bit of a moment there for Denison Chu. Out of turn number 15, manages to hold on to it, gather it up very nicely. As you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, the pit boards being displayed for the riders. Just 12 to 16 years of age they are in the Asia Talent Cup. That 2nd place changing once again. Annuar hits the front. He loves taking the positions on that start-finish straight, doing a great job as well. We should mention also in this race is Genki Nakajima made his wildcard debut in Suzuka last time and really did impress. Was running in the front group and is now in 8th position so far in this first race of the Asia Talent Cup here in Sepang. There is the leader though. Haven't seen much of him so far in this race on lap 5. It is Canon Chu, the 13-year-old from Turkey. His twin brother now in 4th place. You can see there pint-sized man Denison Chu. Of course also racing in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. Meanwhile, 3rd place man at the moment. Just popping onto his rear end of the fairing. That's Raisu Yamanaka. Meanwhile, you can see there Azroy Annuar. He was in 4th place as he came over the timing line. He's at a 2:18.432. That's half a second slower than Canon Chu. You can see now that Annuar is actually in 2nd position in this race, so the positions have changed somewhat, but he was in 4th place as he went over the timing line to set that fastest lap, hence why the graphic does say he was in 4th position. Meanwhile, On Chu still looking very menacing there in 4th place, trying to find a way past Raisu Yamanaka, but we know that Yamanaka is not an easy man to pass on his best day of racing, and that is proving to be the case here so far today. The slipstream, of course, does count for so much given these motorcycles. They're so small. Just Honda NSF 250R machines, 250 cc's. Still good for over 130 miles an hour, however, so they're no slouches at all. But the pole man in Suzuka doing a good job at the moment. He's sitting there in 3rd position in this race, right behind the hometown hero of Azroy Annuar. And just behind him there is Denison Chu with the green helmet. Makes him very easy to distinguish. Keep an eye out, though, just behind Denison Chu as well, because you've got the likes of Haruki Noguchi and Jerry Salim. And Salim just losing a little bit of touch. We haven't seen much overtaking from him throughout the middle stages of this race, as that 2nd position looks to change once again. Here comes Denison Chu, hard on the brakes into turn number 15, but he goes a bit wide, allows Raisu Yamanaka through and Azroy Annuar through, so stitched to his own goat a little bit there, has Denison Chu. Lost a couple of positions after that. Bit of an over-optimistic move from the Turkish rider. Now 2nd place is looking to change once again as Haruki Noguchi comes into the foray as well. Down the start-finish straight we go. 4 wide as we head into the first corner. Who's going to get the position? It's Azroy Annuar who goes latest on the brakes. He moves up into 2nd place, and it looks like Haruki Noguchi has gone from 4th into P3. So that's a brilliant bit of riding there from the Japanese rider who's leading the championship. As we said, we keep alluding to that. 2 points his advantage. That will increase, of course, this weekend if he's able to finish on the podium, or indeed if he's able to finish this race, he will increase his championship advantage. But don't forget, not too far behind Noguchi in the championship as well is the likes of Denison Chu, who's sitting in 3rd place in the championship on 72 points, and right behind him is the man who is in 2nd place at the moment, Raisu Yamanaka. So, sorry, I apologise, Raisu Yamanaka now into 4th place at the moment, so keep an eye out there for the number 12. Just in behind him is Denison Chu. As we go through, the right-handers hard on the brake into the double apex of turn 7 and turn 8. Yamanaka looks to try and find a way past against his fellow riders, but no opportunities being presented so far. Already nearly at the halfway stages of this 13-lap race. As we go hard on the brakes, there is the Malaysian rider, Azroy Annuar. He goes into turn 9 in 2nd position. Doing a great job is the Malaysian rider. Fantastic riding he's had so far this season. Easily his best, of course, that we've seen. He's competed in the Asia Road Racing Championship in 2016 and is also a bit of a veteran in terms of the Asia Talent Cup. He was involved in its inaugural season back in 2015, but only finished 14th in the championship. Took a year out to refocus, recalibrate himself, and has now come back into the championship and really making his mark, sitting there in 2nd position at the moment. So it's only surely a matter of time before he takes his win in the season. Of course, he's finished 2nd so far in Suzuka, 2nd in Chang in the opening round of the championship as well, and we could see him taking his first victory before long. That might be a bit difficult to do, though, with Canon Chu's dominance so far. Meanwhile, up the inside goes Haruki Noguchi. He's now ahead of Denison Chu into turn 15, gets the move done and dusted ahead of the Turkish rider as we go over the timing line. Still Anwar in second place, but third position really up for grabs as we go side by side, almost between the likes of Haruki Noguchi. Then there's a very distant battle going on a bit further down the order. We can see the riders all involved in a nice little scrap there. That is the number 15 of Krichipong Kaibasoni. He is just ahead of Takuto Suzuki, and also involved in that little scrap is Genki Nakajima as well. That's a battle taking place for 8th position at the moment, and it is the Thailand rider of Kaibasoni at the moment who holds on to 8th position. So a good scrap going on inside the top 10 for those riders, and what would be an absolutely brilliant result for Kaibasoni. His best position so far was a 4th place at round 1 in Chang, but he also finished 8th in Suzuka, so he could be on for an equal best result here this weekend. But keep an eye out there for the likes of Takuto Suzuki and Genki Nakajima very close behind as well. They'll be having something to say about that, I am sure. Still Anwar in second place though, as the battle refocuses out in front. Raisu Yamanaka gets under pressure from Haruki Noguchi. Noguchi trying to find his way through into the right, but no opportunities being presented thus far. Keeping an eye out though, very close behind as well, is Jerry Salim, also keeping in touch. He's doing a great job at the moment, is Jerry Salim, and he's going to have to be careful, is the man in front of him of Dennis Onchu, because he's coming under all sorts of pressure from behind as well. But Dennis Onchu, he's gone from 2nd all the way down into 6th position over the space of a few corners. So Onchu losing a bit of ground, and it's so easy to do so. We've seen this, of course, in the likes of the European Talent Cup in the FIM CV Repsol, another championship, of course, that runs exactly the same motorcycles in the European Talent Cup. And it's so easy to just lose ground so quickly, of course, because these riders are all on the same motorcycles. One mistake really can cost you around about 5 or 6 positions, depending on the groups that you're running in. So getting ready to come down that back straight once again. The slipstream comes into effect as Jerry Salim, there he is in 6th position. You can see him on the number 4. Doing a good job so far. Meanwhile, out of the slipstream, under the bubble, goes the number 12 of Raisu Yamanaka, and Haruki Noguchi fancies a bit of the action. He's now ahead, or they're both ahead of Azroy Anwar. They're running a bit wide out of the final corner onto the rumble strips, but holding on to those positions they are very nicely so far. Over the timing line we go. Dennis Onchu in the prime seats at the moment, really, it's got to be said. He's coming down the slipstream. He's on the outside as Azroy Anwar goes deeper on the brakes once again. They go 3 wide into the first corner, and Anwar's the big victor in all of that duel going on at the moment. Into the left of turn number 2 we go. The track really does drop away from you. The circuit cameras don't really do it justice here, because you can't really tell the elevation changes of the track. Into the right-hander we go, getting ready to come into turn number 3. It's an incredibly fast pass of the lap. Meanwhile, we look to the leader, this man here, Canon Chu. What a race he's done so far. Lap 8 of the 13, and he hasn't seen another rider since the first corner. Absolutely brilliant riding we're seeing from the Turkish rider from the brilliant principality of the... Into the right-hander we go with Canon Chu. Brilliant racing there from the Turkish rider. We get ready to go into turn number 9. Jerry Salim, you can see there, 6th position he is, 217.774, so just a couple of tenths behind the likes of the leader of Canon Chu. Meanwhile, we go hard on the brakes, Azroy Anwar, but behind him is Dennis Onchu getting all out of shape, and he loses a position thanks to that as well. Runs it a bit wide into turn number 9. Into the right-hander we go. So brilliant racing as Salim looks to really try and change the running order. He's now right behind Dennis Onchu. We go down into the left-hander of turns number 12 and turn 13. Some fantastic racing going on, and Azroy Anwar really looking to try and put a bit of daylight now between himself and second place man of Raisu Yamanaka. Some great racing going on for 2nd and 3rd position. Getting ready to come over onto the back straight we are now, so slipstream will come into play once again. Who will change positions? Raisu Yamanaka pulls out from the slipstream, as does Dennis Onchu from the championship leader Haruki Noguchi. Down the back straight we go, hard on the brakes. Yamanaka takes over 2nd place, and likewise Onchu from behind takes over 4th position. He moves up a place, so 2 riders moving up a position as we get ready to come out of the final corner and over the timing line once again to start lap 9 out of 13. So just 4 laps now remaining for these Asia Talent Cup riders. And of course, they're going to be looking for the shot window that's going to be open in terms of the Moto3 Junior World Championship and, of course, the Moto3 World Championship as well. The Junior World Championship, of course, hosts the Asia talent team, the likes of Somkiat Chantra, Yuki Kuni, of course, also involved in that mix. All riders, of course, who have made their break in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, and of course it's a great way for them to progress their career and make a break onto the international racing scene and of course move up into the full-time World Championship. Meanwhile, some great battles going on further behind as well. The number 18 you can see involved there, Koki Suzuki, in a bit of a scrap with Kai Sato. Those two changing positions as we go into the first corner. Nice little bit of overtaking there. That's a bit further down the order, just inside the points positions for these riders at the moment. We go through the right-hander with them so far. Some great racing going on. Just here at the front of the group there is the number 13 of Lucky Hendry and Sia. Hendry and Sia having a bit of a difficult race, it's got to be said. Not doing as well as we would have hoped. He finished 7th, of course, in round 2 in Lasea, where we only had one race, and finished 10th in Suzuka as well. So hopefully we'll see him being back on form for Lucky Hendry and Sia. Qualified in a promising 8th position, but it's not materialised for him in the race so far. Meanwhile, crossing back to that action in 2nd position, Azroy Anwar, still in 2nd place, but coming close behind as well. Some great racing going on with Raisu Yamanaka and Denison Chu. As we go downhill into the left-hander, some fantastic overtaking action taking place. Some great close racing as well. What impresses me most of all in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup is just how close these riders are able to run. They're really able to hold on very nicely indeed to the back end of each other, which is no mean feat on these motorcycles as well. It often produces close racing, but as you can see, if you've got a pace advantage like the man Canon Chu does in the lead of the race, well, you can manage to break away quite significantly. Meanwhile, Denison Chu pops out from the slipstream. Hard on the brakes he goes for that inside line, runs it off the racing line, so he'll be losing a bit of grip there as he goes on the brakes as well, which is no mean feat either. You go hard on the brakes and then you've not got the grip that you intended to have going into that corner, so it makes it more difficult to slow down. And of course you're going harder on the brakes, so you're compressing the front suspension harder, pushing that front tyre into the ground harder as well. Meanwhile, now comes Raisu Yamanaka. He goes hard on the brakes, as running it a bit wide goes Azroy Anwar. Looks like he was going to try and go around the outside of Denison Chu, who takes over 2nd place, but it wasn't to be for him. Now just 3 laps remaining. It'll be 2 when we come over the timing line next time. This race has absolutely flown by in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, but the man that's dominated it, you just saw him there at the front end of the screen, Canon Chu, leading the way in the Red Bull Rookies MotoGP Championship at the moment, and looks like he could be a serious championship threat if he keeps up this performance here to take his first win of the 2017 season in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. Down the hill, though, we go into turn 5 and then into the right-hander of turn number 6. Still on Chu, ahead of Anwar at the moment. The top 3 at the moment in this little group have just broken away ever so slightly. Raisu Yamanaka has got caught behind Jerry Salim and has not really been able to make any inroads over the last couple of laps. And now Raisu Yamanaka looks like he could finish in the best position of 6th place, which could be a bit of a disaster to his charge in the championship. It's 2 points separating the top 2 of Noguchi and, of course, Yuki Kuni, of course, who we mentioned isn't racing here this weekend, but Yamanaka, Denison Chu and the like are not too far behind either as we go hard on the brakes into the right-hander. And into 2nd place goes Denison Chu. He is now ahead of Azroy Anwar. Some great overtaking there as we go into the left of turn 12 and then into the right-hander of turn number 13. So it is Haruki Noguchi who's now in 3rd place ahead of Azroy Anwar, but Azroy Anwar looking to try and take that position away. Up the inside he goes into turn 14. Great bit of overtaking there from the Japanese rider. Of course, a brilliant race for him last time out in Suzuka. A brilliant weekend, his best ever in the championship for the number 9. First in race 1, second in race number 2. So he's really riding on the crest of a wave at the moment and looks like he could be on course to take a podium. But the man in front of him, Azroy Anwar, and the man in front of him, Denison Chu, will look to try and change that as we come out of the final corner. Get ready to come over the timing line to start the penultimate lap of the race. Pit boards out on the left of the screen, as you can see. Will the positions be changing into the first corner? You can bet your bottom dollar they will be as we go hard on the brakes. Here comes Azroy Anwar. He's great on the brakes. We've seen that throughout the course of the race. And now there's getting very close as there's a bit of contact from behind as well. One of the riders running into another. They all managed to hold on, but just by the skin of their teeth. That got a bit too hairy, a bit too close to call. But nonetheless, they all managed to stay on the motorcycles, which is the important thing. But somebody losing out was the number 4 of Jerry Salim. He got right hung out to dry and a bit of contact with Haruki Noguchi, the championship leader, as well. Really didn't put pay to that. There he is now, Jerry Salim, who's got a bit to do, and probably he's going to be feeling a bit sore after that incident as well. So hopefully he will be able to get himself involved in this scrap. But it is a 5-way duel for second place that's currently being held on to for those 2 podium positions, the final 2 podium places by Azroy Anwar and Dennis Onchu. It's anybody's guess as we have 3 laps now remaining. Into the right-hander we go, and you can see there Jerry Salim just how much slower he was than Can Onchu. Onchu's pace has backed off over the last couple of laps. He's now down into the 2-minute 18s. However, Jerry Salim, who's right at the tail end of this group, was over 0.6 of a second slower. You can really see what it does to put pay. While you run in a group, you really can lose quite a significant amount of time as Jerry Salim looks to try and find his way through against the number 9 of Haruki Noguchi. Noguchi in that unfortunate position of having to attack and defend at the same time. We've seen how difficult that can be. Of course, you're trying to find your way through against the rider in front of you, but you're also trying to defend your line as well. It's not a mean feat to be able to do so. And up the inside goes Jerry Salim. He now moves himself ahead of Haruki Noguchi. So Noguchi now down outside the top 5 for the first time in this race. And Azroy Anwar just broken away ever so slightly from Dennis Onchu over the last couple of corners. We get ready to go into that final corner once again, and the lap time's really backing off ever so slightly. Azroy Anwar there now in second place. He's over a second slower than Can Onchu on that last lap. Out of the final corner of turn 15 though we go. That very difficult left-handed hairpin. Of course, this circuit 5.5 kilometers long, opened back in 1999, so a brilliant venue it was when it opened back then, and still a fantastic race circuit then, now it is as well. Designed of course by Herman Tilke. Always does produce very close racing on the motorcycles, as we're seeing here now as well. Dennis Onchu with Raisu Yamanaka, so very close for company, and Azroy Anwar not too far in front of him either. Can Onchu, the star of the show, there he is, the number 3, leading the way as we go into turn number 3. What a race he has run, dominated this one from start to finish, continuing the form that we've seen from the Turkish rider in the Red Bull Rookies MotoGP Cup. Into the left-hander of turn number 5, and then into the right of turn number 6 we go before the double apex right of turn 7 and turn number 8. What a race it has been for the Turkish rider, just 13 years of age as we have mentioned, and what a experience this is going to be for him. What maturity he has shown throughout the course of this race as well, and riding of course on that confidence boost he's had. Don't forget of course in the Red Bull MotoGP Rookies Cup they all race on different motorcycles as well compared to what we see in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. They all race on the same motorcycles in each championship, but they're different motorcycles completely. They race KTMs in the Red Bull MotoGP Rookies Cup and the Honda NSF 250R machine, so it shows great adaptability in the championship, and great adaptability for the rider as well to jump on different motorcycles and prove their worth on different machinery as well. Into the left-hander we go, into the final part of the lap, getting ready to come onto the final lap in just a few corners time. Azroy Anwar is in second place, but third place now is the battle that's up for grabs quite significantly as well, as Dennis Onchu was under all sorts of pressure as we came out of the third but last corner and got ready to come over the timing line. So it's Azroy Anwar who's in second place, but now it is Dennis Onchu who takes over third position, the final spot on the rostrum, with Raisu Yamanaka, Haruki Noguchi and Jerry Salim also coming into the foray as well. Onchu runs it wide. He loses 2 positions now, 3 positions in the space of 1 corner. We get ready to come over the timing line. Onchu starts his final lap. Can he do it? Yes, he can. If he holds on in the final lap of this race, second place looks to be Azroy Anwar as we get ready to come into the first corner for the final time of asking. The Malaysian rider looks dead set for a podium, but fourth place really changing hands now as well, as Jerry Salim, he's come from absolutely nowhere from 6th position over the last few laps to get himself up into 4th place, and he looks like he could be a surefire bet for the podium. Let's keep an eye out and see what happens, or will it be the championship leader Haruki Noguchi, as we look at the man who has led this race, dominated the way, Can Onchu. Into the right-hander we go. Azroy Anwar, what a race it has been for the Malaysian rider. What a coming of age and what a place to do it. Get your net best result of the season. with a second position. That first win surely is only just a few rounds away for him if he continues this form. But the battle that's going on at the moment is led by Raisu Yamanaka, and there's contact as well between himself and Jerry Salim coming out of turn number 6. Into turn 7 we go, and Salim really losing some ground there as Yamanaka got himself all out of shape and ran it into the side of Jerry Salim. Very close racing between those two. I'd love to see an instant replay of that as we come down into turn number 9. Hard on the brakes we go. Very close. It's crunch time now in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. Into the right-hander we are of turn number 10. Just a few more corners remaining for these riders, separating them from home. Who is going to get the final spot on the rostrum? As Roy Anwar, you can see he's just up the road there in second place, but the man that's led the way at the moment is this one, Kan On-Chu, the Turkish rider for the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, 13 years of age, and looking like he's going to take his first ever win in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, coming off the back of a win in the Red Bull Rookies MotoGP Cup. Hard on the brakes will go in just a couple of moments' time into the final corner of turn number 15. What a race it has been for the Turkish rider. Around the final corner we go here in Malaysia. Sepang in race 1 does belong to Kan On-Chu. What a race it's been for the 13-year-old. Kan On-Chu takes his first ever win in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. Second place will go the way of Azroy Anwar, and then third place, right at the checker flag, will go the way of the number 4. Jerry Salim takes it on the line ahead of the championship leader Haruki Noguchi. Raisu Yamanaka in 5th place. Dennis On-Chu in P number 6. What a race it turned out to be for those riders. A fantastic achievement for all of those guys involved. Brilliant racing taking place. 7th place will go the way of Koji Hirama. 8th will be Genki Nakajima. 9th will be we'll come back to that in just a moment. There's contact there at the final corner. There is Krichipon Kaibasoni. I wonder where he'd gone, because of course we saw him earlier on in the race battling in 8th position, and he has fallen at the final corner, presumably whilst battling for that final spot in the top 10. However, it's all gone wrong for him, and he is now out of this race and looks set to be a DNF. That's going to be a disaster there for the Thailand rider. It never rains but it pours. It looked like he was on for his net best result in 8th position of the championship. Perhaps he would have finished inside the top 10, who knows, but it's not going to be for Krichipon Kaibasoni. A big shame there for the Thailand rider, a DNF for him. So 9th place then does go the way of Takuto Suzuki. Then it is Lucky Endrian Sia who rounds out the top 10. A brilliant race for all involved, but what a race it turned out to be for Kan On-Chu. A fantastic way to take his first win of the season in dominant fashion here in Sepang as well. The final runners and riders just coming over the timing line to complete their races. And what a race we have seen in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. Don't forget, of course, we've got another race coming up for you tomorrow as well for the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, race number 2, and it's set to be very exciting indeed if anything like race 1 is to go by. Track temperature should be very similar to what we've had here today as well. Very hot, very humid, and that's going to make tyre life, as we said, very interesting as well. It could be a race of attrition, although credit to all riders for managing to stay on the motorcycles. It's hotter than we've experienced so far this season here in Malaysia, and really does show that these riders are doing a great job of being able to withstand the conditions. It's such a physical effort. Imagine riding around at 35 degrees or running at 35 degrees, then chucking a full set of leathers and a crash helmet on. It's not an easy feat at all, but what a way to take a brilliant podium in his home round. Azroy Anwar, the Malaysian, a brilliant race for the number 20. Fantastic way to take his net best result of the season for the 17-year-old. Just based in Kuala Lumpur he is, so one of the local riders, of course, and a brilliant way to equal his best result of the season. 17 years of age he is, so one of the elder statesmen in the championship, one of the older riders we've seen in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, but nonetheless doing a great job for him, and surely they're going to be looking at Anwar very seriously for a ride perhaps in the likes of Moto3 in the Junior World Championship, or perhaps maybe even the World Championship. We've seen stranger things happen in Moto3, so it'll be interesting to see what happens with the likes of Azroy Anwar and of course the likes of Kan and Dennis On-Chu, of course them only being 13 years of age. It does mean that they're a little bit young to compete in the World Championship, but nonetheless, they could end up competing perhaps in the Junior World Championship. But if their form is anything to go by, it's going to be very interesting to see where they end up in just a few years' time. So pulling into Parc Ferme we are now. Canon Chu, Azroy Anwar and Jerry Salim pull their way into the holding area as Raisu Yamanaka we just see there with the number 12. He finished in 5th place in that race, so a good result for the Japanese rider. A brilliant race for him. A good top 5 finish after that DNF, of course. Here are the final the final results in the race. Canon Chu takes the victory, 4.412 seconds ahead of Azroy Anwar, just ahead of Jerry Salim and Haruki Noguchi. So under a 10th of a second separating 3rd and 4th place as they came to the timing line. Raisu Yamanaka just inside the top 5. To final top 10 place was Lucky Hendrian Sia, the Indonesian rider. Irfan Furman Sia in 11th place. Koki Suzuki was 12th. Kai Sato, Hazik Hamadin, and then the final strugglers, DNFs, of course, Krishipon Kaibasoni, Reed Beatty, and Sol Saihimi, unfortunately, of course, with that incident with Reed Beatty in the opening stages of the race. So the riders then heading their way onto the podium. The Indonesian flag drapes from the back of Jerry Salim in 3rd place. The Malaysian flag flies off the back of Azroy Anwar. Will we see the Turkish flag off the back of Canon Chu? I'm sure we will. No, we won't, actually. There we are. So onto the top step of the rostrum goes the Turkish rider, Canon Chu, 13 years of age, his first ever win in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup, and what a way to do it in style. Such dominant fashion from the 13-year-old, and what a podium it was as well with Azroy Anwar and Jerry Salim. Jerry Salim taking his best result of the season so far as well. His first podium of the championship. Didn't race last time out, of course, in the 3rd round of the championship in Suzuka. But nonetheless doing a great job collecting his trophy. In 2nd place is Azroy Anwar there as well. And there we go. Canon Chu, the race victor in race number 1 here at the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. And now we wait then for the Turkish national anthem to ring out here over the Sepang International Circuit. The first time ever the Turkish national anthem has rung out over the Sepang International Circuit, and what a race it was for Canon Chu. He makes history in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. A fantastic way to open his account here in Sepang. Don't forget, of course, there is one more race coming up tomorrow here on Sunday in Malaysia. We keep an eye out for that. It's going to be a very, very exciting thing. Will we see the likes of Azroy Anwar, Jerry Salim, Haruki Noguchi, perhaps even Raisu Yamanaka coming into the foray as well? And we could see an almighty scrap for the race victory, if not the podium as well. What a race it has turned out to be for the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. The riders now just posing for their photographs, and then we get the final confirmation of the championship before we head into race number 2 tomorrow. So here we are then. Here is how the championship stands. Still Haruki Noguchi leading the way, but he has increased the advantage to 15 points. 100 on the dot for Haruki Noguchi. Yuki Kuni there trailing by 15 in 2nd position as well, and Canon Chu really launching himself into the championship charge as well. Depending on what happens tomorrow, we could even see a new leader in the championship by the time we head into the next round of the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow for more racing action here in Sepang.